Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends. It's a pretty exciting day. We got the spoilers for the dual deck Zendikar versus Eldrazi, so we have entire deck lists here, as well as 6 spoilers that are cards that will be in battle for Zendikar. So let's go ahead and get started. As you know, this product will be coming out a week from Friday, so it's still a couple weeks away, but it will have 2 decks included, and it's going to have cards from Battle for Zendikar included in the decks as well. So let's start by looking at the Zendikar deck. And one of the things you're going to see here is it's basically a ally landfall deck. It actually seems like a pretty cool deck. I'm very impressed with these dual decks, more so than the previous dual decks that I've seen. So I'm going to go through the cards that we know well that are reprints relatively quick, and just so you get a feel for the deck list, and then I'll spend a little more time on the actual spoilers. So in the Zendikar deck, you get one Afagard Hound, you get one Beastbreaker of Belagad, so you see there's some level up mechanics going on here too. You get 2 Caravan Escorts, you get a Daggerback Basilisk, a Frontier Guide, 2 Greypelt Hunters, a Brazen Gladeheart, a Jaraga Bard, a Kabera Vindicator, a Knight of Cliffhaven, a Makindi Griffin, a Andu Giant, a Scoop Mob as a rare, pretty cool, a Stonework Puma, 2 Territorial Baloths, a Tajuro Archer, a Turntimber Basilisk, a Wildheart Invoker. Now we'll move on to the sorceries. You get a copy of Oust. And here's an interesting one. You get a Primal Command with new art, and it's very Zendikar-centric art. So does this mean this will be reprinted in Battle for Zendikar? Hard to say. Maybe not, but the art is still really cool, and who knows, maybe it will show up in one of the next couple sets, but really nice inclusion there. Move on to the instants with Groundswell, Repel the Darkness, Harrow, and here's artifacts, Explorer's Scope, Seer's Sundial, and now enchantments, Colony Heart Expedition, and let's look at our lands. We get 2 Greypelt Refuge, a Stirring Wildwood. So here's some value here. A manland actually included. So it just seems like green-white has been getting their cards just included in all these products lately, starting with the Clash packs and now this. So pretty nice value card there. Very surprised to see this, but pretty happy. You get 2 Turntimber Groves, and then there's 9 plains, 10 forests. So now let's look at the cards that have been spoiled. The first one's not too exciting, but you do get 2 copies of Evolving Wilds. So this particular spoiler came from a anonymous source that put it out, I believe, on Twitter. It looks like they pulled the card out of a sorter, or maybe got destroyed or what have you, or stuck in a sorter. So take it for what it's worth. It's not 100% confirmed, but it looks like Evolving Wilds will be showing up in Battle for Zendikar. There will be 2 copies in this dual deck, but I guess it makes sense. If you don't have regular fetch lands, this kind of sort of works like a fetch land as well, at least for a landfall. And our first new card that we're seeing for the first time is Veteran War Leader, and this costs a Selesnya and a colorless, and pretty cool. Human Soldier Ally. So first thing it tells us is allies will be back, just like we saw them in this dual deck. They will be in Battle for Zendikar. And this creature's power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control, but then you can tap another untapped ally you control, and it will gain your choice of First Strike, Vigilance, or Trample until end of turn. Pretty cool card. Very cheap for the potential power level of it in the right deck. Going to be awesome in an ally build. I could definitely see this being a high draft pick if you're going to go for the ally deck. Really cool card. Nice spoiler there. So next is Sheer Drop, and you're going to get 2 of these, and this one's pretty interesting. Costs a white and 2 colorless. It's a sorcery, destroy target tapped creature. That's pretty cool. But then we have a new mechanic to look at called Awaken. So this is Awaken 3 on this particular card. So if you spend a white and 5 colorless instead of the white and 2 colorless, not only do you get to destroy the tapped creature, but now you can target a land you control, put 3 counters on it because it's a Awaken 3, and it becomes a creature as well as a land, and also gets haste, so you can attack if you just put it out that turn. Pretty cool. So I'm really excited about the Awaken mechanic. I could see you just being able to tag extra mana onto just kind of run-of-the-mill spells in the mid to late game to bring your lands to life and just get you more creatures and more attack power and more board presence. That's pretty awesome. So I'm very excited. I really like this mechanic. I can't wait to see what else they do with it. So the last spoiler from the Zendikar side of the duel deck anyway is Retreat to Kasandu. And this costs a green and 2 colorless. It's an enchantment and it has landfall. So it's official. Landfall will be in Battle for Zendikar. So I think most people assumed it would be there because it just encompasses the land matters idea of Zendikar so well. And it's a fan favorite mechanic. It was one of my favorites. It's a really fun mechanic and it makes your lands, especially late game, that could potentially just be useless, do stuff for you. Really cool. So great to see it confirmed that it's going to be here. This particular landfall says whenever a land enters battlefield under your control, choose one, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, or you gain 2 life. So very cool. I'm not usually a huge fan of enchantments that don't do anything the turn they come into play. However, this only costs 3, and if you play this and then play a land, you do get a bonus out of it. So this is a little bit stronger than the average enchantment like this. All right, so let's take a look at that Eldrazi deck list now and see what they have going on. You're going to see here the Eldrazi deck, of course, focuses on ramp and Eldrazi, like you probably assumed it would. But there's also some graveyard mechanics going on there, and they seem to have, maybe the Eldrazi have teamed up with the vampires against Zendikar, so there's some vampire kind of undead strategy stuff going on too. So let's jump in. Again, like the first one, I'm going to go quickly through the cards that are previously printed cards, and then we'll jump into the new stuff and talk a little bit about it. So you get an Artisan of Kozilek, a Bloodright Invoker, a Bloodthorn Vampire. You get a Butcher of Malakar, which is pretty cool rare. Cadaver Imp. You get 3 Emrakul's Hatchers, and this is a great way, of course, to get the Eldrazi spawn out there to help you ramp. 2 copies of Heartstabber Mosquito, a little bit of removal there. Notice Kicker is also a thing, which makes me wonder if Kicker will be in Battle for Zendikar. It hasn't been confirmed yet by these spoilers, but maybe. You get an It That Betrays, which is a pretty cool rare from Rise of the Eldrazi. You get a Magma, another rare. You get a Pawn of Ulamog. 2 Rune Servitors. Seems like that's Wizard's favorite card lately. A Torch Slinger. An Ulamog's Crusher. A Vampire Nighthawk. And we'll move on to sorceries. You get a Corpse Hatch. 2 Forked Bolts. A Hellion Eruption. Marsh Casualties. 2 copies of Read the Bones. And a Consume the Meek. This one has new art, so very cool looking art. I really like the art on this. A little stylized, but this doesn't look too computer enhanced to me. Maybe a little bit in the sky. I don't know. But I really like kind of just this more standard classic art, and this reminds me of that. So very cool card, and great to see new art on it. Does this mean it will show up as a reprint in Battle for Zendikar? Hard to say. Who knows? But if not, you still get a card with some new art in this product. And we'll move on to the instants. You got Induced Despair. You get a Smother. 2 Mind Stones. Pretty interesting and pretty cool inclusion there. And that's the only artifact. We'll move on to our lands. Get 3 copies of a Calm Refuge. You get an Eldrazi Temple. 2 Rocky Tar Pits, and this one's interesting. This has never been reprinted since it was printed in Mirage, so this was kind of their first take at fetch lands. Makes me wonder if these will show up in Battle for Zendikar. Maybe they will at the uncommon slot. That would be pretty interesting. But they're basically fetch lands that come into play tapped. Other than that, they're fetch lands. So the picture I have here is actually from Magic Online. It was reprinted in Vintage Masters, but it hasn't been reprinted in paper since Mirage. You get 7 mountains, and finally 13 swamps. So of course there's 4 more cards, 3 unique cards to look at, and these are all newer. So let's look at this first. This is Oblivion Sower. This has already been spoiled. We already did a video on it, so I won't go into a lot of detail, but I put it up here because it's kind of interesting just to remind everybody real quick of what it does. When you cast it, target opponent exiles the top 4 cards of his or her library. Then you may put any number of land cards that player owns from exile onto the battlefield. So keep that in mind. Any number of land cards that player owns from exile. So not just the 4 that just got exiled, but anything that's been exiled. So that's going to make a little more sense in just a second. And here's our first new spoiler for the Eldrazi side. And you get 2 copies of Dominator Drone. And this is pretty interesting. So a couple mechanics to look at here. First off, he's a 3/2 creature. Costs 1 black and 2 colorless for an Eldrazi Drone. But he has Devoid, which means this card has no color. So he's, even though you're using black, he's effectively a colorless creature. So that's interesting. Kind of reminded me a little bit of the colored artifacts when you have to pay blue for an artifact or something like that. So kind of the opposite. He also has Ingest. Whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top card of his or her library. So it appears that the Eldrazi, instead of annihilating your board state, they're going to annihilate your deck instead, and then there's going to be Eldrazi like the previous one we saw that may allow you to take advantage of those cards that you made your opponent exile. So pretty interesting mechanic. I actually really like this. It seems very thoughtful and very deep. And yeah, it's not as powerful as Annihilator, but Annihilator was too powerful. That was just kind of silly. And it was just a scoop mechanic. I mean, most of the time, if you couldn't kill the thing right away, the game was just over. So I really like this quite a bit. And in addition, he also has an ability when he enters the battlefield. If you control another colorless creature, each opponent loses 2 life. So it has that colorless synergy as well. So pretty cool card there at the common level. I really like that spoiler. The art's pretty neat too. It looks like an Eldrazi is kind of controlling a vampire by sticking to its head. It kind of reminds me of Half-Life, I suppose, or Half-Life 2. So I don't know, interesting. And the last spoiler we got for the day is Forerunner of Slaughter, and this is another very interesting Eldrazi drone. He costs a black and a red for a 3/2. This one's an uncommon. He also has the Devoid though, so he's technically colorless, even though he costs 2 colors. And he can pay 1. Target colorless creature gains haste until end of turn. So very cool. And there's also a quote on there by Gideon, so you can probably assume, although we've already seen from the art, as you can see to the left of the card there, Gideon is probably going to be in the set. So there's a quote by Gideon that probably helps confirm that even more. Yeah, very cool what we've seen so far. And granted, we've only seen like 6 cards or so at this point, or 7 cards at this point, but they've all been really amazing. I'm really excited for Battle for Zendikar. As far as this product goes, I do think these dual decks are a little more deep than some that I've seen in the past, and I'm looking forward to playing with them. So much like last time, what I'll do is I'll probably go out and grab a copy of these when they come out and play with them a little bit, and then come back and do an official review and maybe a box opening as well, so that you can kind of take a look at it. But I'm pretty excited about this. This seems like it'll be much more fun to play than some of the previous dual decks. So I guess we'll find out. But hey, as always, thanks for watching. If you haven't had a chance yet to check out our Patreon, definitely check that out. There'll be a link at the very end of the video. We really need help to make better videos. I really would like to make some things that are a little more visually appealing for you guys. Fortunately, that takes money, and I just need support to do that. But there's also some cool giveaways once we hit certain tiers, up to and including a box of Magic Standard, something from the Standard set. So check that out. And as always, please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks as always for watching. These videos are made possible by viewers just like you through Patreon. Please check out our Patreon page by clicking on the top right. Down below we have more links to quality Magic the Gathering content, and if you're interested in seeing trading cards open that aren't Magic the Gathering, check out the link to our trading card channel, Heroes and Legends Trading Cards. Thanks and have a great day.